This program is brought to you by Zenus, leading the optimum wellness movement in body and spirit with nature.
My whole purpose is to get people off of their drugs and get them to live a healthy life.
It's such a miracle. I mean, this is dollar for dollar. Best stuff I've ever had in my office.
Hey there, welcome to yet another edition of the Wellness Express on the Airtime American Network. My name is Anthony, and joining me once again is Doug Whitfield, educator and author of Life or Grave Danger. He is also the president and CEO of Zenus Global Health. Remember, when you tune in here, the consultation is free. We're backed by Nature's Pharmacy, and that journey to wellness can be all yours. It just begins with your mindset. You can also give us a call at 702-540-5668 for questions, comments, and your interest in the best of whole food nutritional supplements. Doug, once again, we're back for another show. It's great to be back with you. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you, Anthony, and I'm excited to be back with you again as well.
I must say, a fabulous response to the first show. I think we really hit a collective nerve out there with your philosophy on poisons and toxins. That subject is not going away anytime soon. Then, of course, there's always the importance of detoxification, and that was yet another key flashpoint from the first show. Seems to me, though, that we've really begun to strike the right chord, the right nerve.
Oh, well, there's no question about it. We've known for years that it's accumulated waste and poisons and toxins that are the precursors to virtually all degenerative and chronic conditions.
Well, we're certainly not going to stop there. Remember, you can discover so much more by visiting the Zenus Global Health website. All the studies, all the most important data is there at zenusglobalhealth.com/information. Begin your discovery today, and you must, by all means, begin on your journey now. Call us, again, 702-540-5668 to get the assistance that your body needs. Not tomorrow, not next week, or next year, but today, which really, Doug, opens up our first question, ironically, when we talk about balance. From a baseline wellness perspective, I guess, what does balance mean in the bigger picture?
Well, balance to me represents the difference between wellness and sickness. If you look at the word dis-ease, is simply a body out of balance. Disease is caused when you've got too much of something you shouldn't have, maybe not enough of something you should have, or a combination of both. So in restoring balance, you eliminate the dis-ease. So balance is the magic bullet that, we're constantly striving to find. It's always there. We just haven't accepted that as being the answer.
Again, Doug, we always want to make our information actionable in terms of what it means to wellness. And stunting that process for sure is how some of these terms like balance and detox get confused or misleading in the perception filter. Can you give us an example of how information has become so misleading for people who are just simply trying to do the right thing?
Right now, you'll find one of the things out there right now that's become real popular, and that's pH balance. But again, what I would do is I'd question the authority and a lot of the people that talk about pH balance, because a lot of times it's misinformation. You'll hear them talking about the benefit of alkaline water, for example. This is a big thing, and it's wonderful if you're selling a $6,000 water alkalizing machine. But the truth of the matter is, everything is balanced in the body, in the pH, and needs to be if you want to have awesome health. The skin, for example, is acidic because we need that acid that prevents pathogens from entering through our skin because the acids kill them. It's the same thing with part of our digestive process is stomach produces hydrochloric acid, and that's to prevent pathogens, live viruses and germs and that from getting through the digestive system. The pH of the body at a cellular level remains pretty constant. It varies almost marginally, nothing. Mm-hmm. And if it did, you'd suffer from either alkalosis or acidosis, either of which could be terminal, which could kill you. So you want to maintain a steady pH at a cellular level. Taking alkalized water isn't going to change that. All it's going to do is change the pH in your urine or in your saliva. So if you take one of these little pH tests, that varies during the course of the day anyways. Your pH and your saliva and your urine vary from at night to the morning. You can do a test and you'll find that it's different. Matter of fact, taking a lot of alkalized water could be more detrimental than beneficial, and I'll explain why. One of the challenges a lot of people have as they mature, and have had more birthdays, one of the challenges is acid reflux. So people turn around and so they figure, it's from too much acid in the body. It's really caused in 99% of the cases in not having enough acid in the body. The body's not producing and the stomach's not secreting enough hydrochloric acid because that's a significant part of the digestion process. So food, if it's passing down and the body's not producing enough hydrochloric acid, the food then undigested moves to the gut where it's in an alkaline environment where it's allowed to ferment. And when it ferments, it builds up gases. It puts pressure on muscles called the sphincter. And when that muscle tires, it releases those gases that rush back up the esophagus carrying traces of hydrochloric acid with it. And that's what we call acid reflux. So it's a result of not having enough hydrochloric acid in the system. And when you take alkaline water, what you're doing is you're enhancing the problem by buffering what HCl is being manufactured. There's nothing that I can think of that would be beneficial. I'm not saying that it's going to kill you, but I am saying that when you evaluate it, if you're investing money in alkaline water, I'd suggest that the money is a waste.
This is where I think we naturally add the role of vitamins and supplements to this discussion. We spend billions on these vitamins nationwide, and the reality hidden beneath these products is often where you find people encounter their first aha moment when they compare what they get off the shelf at your local nutritional store and then what you offer at Zenus Global Health. Just because you're taking vitamins, it doesn't mean that you got the right formula that your body is craving. It's like, nice bow and arrow set there, Sparky, but you keep missing the target.
Nature has a way of synergistically blending all the right vitamins with the right minerals, with the right trace minerals, with the right enzymes, with the right coenzymes. So they're all synergistically blended in a way that's in total harmony of the body's needs. That's the way we were created. If the food molecules that we're eating with these nutrients are not in harmony with the cell's needs, the cell will reject them. Mm-hmm. And it's like a lock and key. And if it's not the proper key that fits that lock, that food molecule, nutrient molecule, is not going to be allowed access into that cell. Subsequently, it deprives that cell from getting the nutrients that it needs to go ahead and manufacture enzymes.
So if you're somebody who's been buying the usual multivitamins off the local health store shelf, right, or you just pick them up, as you need them without much thought from your grocery store, like I used to do for years and years, as long as I wasn't, distracted in the ice cream aisle, what makes your supplements so different and more effective? That's a question we often get, and I don't think the facts get spelled out nearly enough because there are some really big differences here.
Well, anytime you're buying a vitamin off the shelf, a vitamin in a bottle, you've got something that's definitely denatured. Okay, denatured, it could be one of two ways. Let's just say, for example, it's either going to be a synthetic, in other words, it's a man-made vitamin, or an isolate. In other words, it's been isolated from a natural source. Because it's not found in nature as an isolate, they always come as part of a team. Vitamins are always found as part of a team. So they've got to be accompanied by the mineral, the trace mineral, the enzyme, and the coenzyme. And so taking an isolate, it's not recognized as natural. It's been denatured. And the body, at a cellular level, doesn't recognize it as being food for the cell.
Folks, you're listening to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime America Network with Doug Whitfield. The consultation, again, is free. It's backed by Nature's Pharmacy. Give us a call at 702-540-5668 and begin your wellness journey today. Listen, Doug, so let's assume that we all know we've been given the right information here, that you readily admit that, something has to be done, that I need to address what's missing in my food, or I need to start thinking differently about my wellness today.
Right.
Where do I begin when I call Zenus? What supplements should I be looking at? And really, what should I avoid in the general marketplace?
Well, understand that anything labeled as a vitamin is not a vitamin. Now, legally, it may be able to be called a vitamin, And vitamin C is a good example. If you look at the label on any vitamin C package, you won't say it's going to be called ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid only makes up part of a vitamin molecule. It's like taking an egg and eating the shell, because that's all it is. It's part of the outer membrane, ascorbic acid, but it doesn't have any of the protoplasm, doesn't have any of the inward, like the yolk of the egg. It doesn't have any of that. So it's not a complete vitamin. It's just part of a vitamin complex. So it won't be recognized as food for the cell at a cellular level. The only place that you can get complete vitamins has to come in complete whole food or complete whole food supplements. Something where maybe there's an extraction where it's concentrated in a supplement, but nothing's been denatured in the extraction process.
Given the fact that these large vitamin distributors and maybe some of the big supplement companies themselves, they resort to nature to make their own formulas, it doesn't take a connect the dots session to realize that many of them are reaching to the very products that are either, GMOs, genetically modified, or the end result of agricultural farming, big agricultural farming, which has many of its own problems to consider. What's been denatured here, and what logical benefit are we deriving from some of these products, knowing what we know today?
Anything that's GMO has been denatured anyways. It doesn't come from nature. It's been modified, scientifically modified. So it's no longer natural anyways. And this whole word natural is really bandied about in a way that, for all intents and purposes, bastardizes the whole concept of natural, because one can make an argument that everything on the planet originated from a natural source. It's just that it's been chemically changed or altered to where it's no longer the way that nature created it. I tell a story, and I've told it before, and that's the story is that years ago, a group of scientists got together with the express purpose of developing and cloning seawater, making seawater, and they made it so perfect that even the most powerful instrumentation could discern no difference between what was natural and what was real. However, when they gave it the ultimate test by introducing fish into the equation, the fish instantly died in the man-made seawater, and they swam freely in the original seawater, because there are always things in nature that the master doesn't reveal.
So let's say I take vitamin C, Doug, right? I took vitamin C off and on for years, mostly when I felt the onset of a cold or a flu, and I think a lot of people do that. But as soon as I discovered seafood, which is really your alternative, I never looked back, mostly because the impact felt immediate once I achieved, the right body dosage level. But for people who haven't had this experience, what is the main differentiator between, the vitamin C I get over the counter and what I get when I call you for your products?
Okay, well, one of the things is that we don't sell our product as vitamin C. We call it seafood because those are whole food extractions from specific botanics. One is camu, which is the leading source, the richest source of complete vitamin C in the world. The other is another berry called Acerella. Acerella is the second richest known source of vitamin C. So it comes in a molecular form, in a food source that's rich with all the enzymes, coenzymes, minerals, trace minerals with the vitamin C. So it's complete food, as opposed to buying an isolate that only represents part of the molecule anyways.
Now let's draw this back to the importance of detox. Again, another part of the equation that became a big discovery for me. Not in terms of logic, I knew it had to be done, but the overall impact, the downstream impact. Obviously, once we begin the process of cleaning out the mucus and the built-up waste, more of the nutrients can be processed during the normal digestive process. But the part that detox plays, the critical role, this has to be a key factor here, no?
Well, that's a good question, because when we're eating a lot of denatured food, whether that's food that's overcooked or food that's void of some of the constituents, well, then what happens is the body's going to do one of two things. It's either going to defecate or accumulate in the gut.
Right.
So that's not defecated is going to be accumulated. So when we get an accumulation of waste in the gut, over a period of time, it rots and putrefies.
Mm-hmm.
As these poisons build up, they get into the body, in through the gut wall. Immediately, that sets off a protective mechanism in our immune system to protect the body from these poisons. So it starts to coat the gut wall with mucus. And that mucus is designed to prevent those poisons from getting into the bloodstream where they can be carried to various parts of the body and do damage. However, we're now in a catch-22 because we can't absorb the poisons. We can no longer absorb nutrients that the cells need in order to create the enzymes for our daily activities and give us the proper energy to do the healing that needs to be done for any damage that's been created. And so the benefit of our detox program with the Optimum Detox, it has what they call phytosterols in the product. Phytosterols are natural occurring plant steroids, and their function is to simply enhance the activity of the friendly bacteria. It causes the friendly flora in the gut to produce more enzymes. The enzymes can then more effectively break down this accumulated waste into tiny particles that the body can defecate and eliminate. Now, the nice thing about it is that Optimum Detox comes with a second substance called saponins, and the saponins are actually soap molecules, natural occurring soap in the product. Soap is a surfactant or a wetting agent, and it's used for cleaning. It increases the permeability of the cell wall of water to absorb oxygen, making water wetter. So it's perfect for being able to cleanse the gut wall of the mucus, while at the same time, it has a propensity to bind with any of the bile acids, bile salts, intestinal cholesterol, the precursors to a lot of disease such as pancreatic cancer, colon cancer. It binds with them and doesn't allow them to pass through the gut wall because the molecule is too large. It's what we refer to as a soft wall molecule, so the body's forced to eliminate that as well. So two things from the Optimum Detox, from a detoxifying perspective. Number one, it eliminates the cause of almost all of our degenerative and chronic conditions that starts in the gut. Number two, it then puts the body in a better posture so it can more effectively absorb nutrients the cells are starved for, so it can create the enzymes to go ahead and restore balance to any part of the body that's been harmed by these poisons that have gotten through, and also able to assist the body and restore balance so the cells can go ahead and manufacture the enzymes necessary for us to live a happy, healthy, joyful life.
Wow, lots to consider here, people. You are listening to the Wellness Express with Doug Whitfield, brought to you by the fine people at Zenus Global Health. Check out the website at zenusglobalhealth.com/information or give them a call at 702-540-5668. Remember, this consultation is always free. We are backed by Nature's Pharmacy. You know that by now. More about the insidious nature of disease, even more about your journey to wellness. Don't forget, we've got Dr. George Ritter. He'll join me later in the show. You won't want to miss that. This is the Wellness Express. Hey, this is Anthony checking in with you during the break. Thanks for listening in. Maybe you're in your car or you're in the quiet part of your workday while you're doing that filing, some cleaning up, maybe cleaning up the inbox. We all know how that can be. Maybe you're catching up with the show during your commute. Yeah, that's the most popular way people keep in touch with the world these days. However we get here, we always seem to find a way while we're in between things. Well, today I want you to think about some other important things too. Let's just say for a moment that, in your workday, you're not performing up to the standards that you set for yourself. Maybe the standards that even your boss has set for you. That you don't have the energy or the stamina that you once did during your workday. Or perhaps you haven't reached that lifestyle of freedom and impact that you really want to have. Look, every week that passes is 1 week closer to the day when the health you rely on, when the wellness you take for granted, when your ability to resist chronic disease collapses because of some basic choices that you've made. Ask yourself some questions. Will you be prepared for what comes next? What happens when you spend too little time taking care of you? Will it catch up with you when you're applying for a job with hundreds of overqualified applicants and then suddenly your health coverage expires? What happens to you when the insurance company says no and the medical profession can no longer serve you? If you've ever had to answer these kinds of questions, you know about fear, anxiety, and what it means to worry about your future. Listen, I've had to answer those questions myself, and, I did all the green drinks, took the multivitamins 20 out of the 30 days in a month because I was rushing out the door. That means I missed a lot. I even did the fasting, the flushing when I felt run down, I avoided all the worst fast foods, forced down salads when I really wanted pizza or KFC. You see, I know you're doing the best you can. You're spending good money because you've told yourself that you have a priority to stay healthy on the job or that you want to be accountable to your responsibilities. Well, what I want you to do today is something more. I want you to consider for a moment, what if there was something more effective that I can do for my body now? What if there were better decisions to be made? Take this rare moment when, the world slows down to ask yourself this honest question. What can I do now? Look, if you listen this far into the show, you got into the second show, you already know the answer. And the answer is, it's something more. Because really, let's be frank, it's always something more unless you're taking at least optimum detox. I know it sounds cheesy, but I'm telling you folks, this is the formula that not only helped detoxify my poisons and toxins, but it did a lot more. My word, 8 months in, I'm eating better. I don't need to overeat to get what my body needs. There's no more cravings, no more cigarettes. So what I want you to do, if the answer is I need to do something more, get on the phone and call Zenus at 702-540-5668. Somebody will always be there to help you, to give you all the information you need. And I'm personally challenging you to get that first bottle now. Ask how d-tox can build up your host resistance to disease, free you up from the dangers of poisons and toxins. 702-540-5668. This detox formula is affordable, it's portable, it is so easy to use. Choose now, really. Choose now or don't choose to do anything. Either way, it's still a statement about your commitment to providing for your loved ones, your clients, and your colleagues, and really your future. Choose now. Make that call to Zenus. I know where my future lies. How about you? Hey, welcome back to the Wellness Express. My name is Anthony, joined here with Doug Whitfield on the Airtime America Network. You know Doug as the author of that fabulous book, Life or Grave Danger. Don't forget, you can find that book on Amazon as well as on the website at zenusglobalhealth.com/information. You know, Doug, before the break, we were talking about balance. That's obviously our destination, but let's look at what's really happening in the world today. We have a workforce of, 3.2 billion people who are increasingly unwell. They're finding themselves aging in many sectors. 52% say they are overweight or obese. Nearly 10% say they have some form of diabetes. 76% say they're struggling or suffering in their physical well-being. My gosh, when you look just at those statistics alone, if we can't help you with some wellness objectives, detoxing, what have you, there has never been a more important time, in my opinion, where people need to get on some form of wellness trajectory.
No question about it, Anthony. Right now, we're going through a time here, especially here in the West, where stress levels are at an unparalleled level. People are struggling day in and day out, not even to get ahead necessarily, but just to hang on to what they got. So we've got a situation now where dad is sometimes working 2 or even 3 jobs just to put food on the table. Mom is out working, sometimes even 2 jobs as well. And a lot of times they're working at jobs that they even detest, but it's all about having to be able to provide for their family. So stress levels are at an unparalleled level. And when your stress levels get high like that, it puts a lot of stress on the adrenal system. Now, the adrenals are critical in the body, as we know, because they control and monitor all the chemistry in the body, and they become one of the chief organs of hormone production at a certain point in time as well. So when our adrenals are out of balance, then we're more prone to additional stress and the creation of poisons in the body itself. The body can actually create poisons, and as we talked about in earlier segments, it's the accumulated waste and poisons and toxins in the body that are the precursors to all these degenerative and chronic conditions. So when the adrenals are compromised, they no longer can produce the proper hormones, or they control the thyroid. So we end up with an overactive or underactive thyroid. We end up with anger issues, all kinds of different insidious symptoms showing up in our whole thought process. Just our minds don't function right because we're just not getting the proper hormone production.
Folks, you're listening to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime America Radio Network with Doug Whitfield. The consultation is free, as you know, backed by Nature's Pharmacy. Give us a call at 702-540-5668. You know, Doug, I'm something of a walking, talking poster child for your products, but even more so, the background information that arrives with your formulas. Part of the mission that needs to be stated here is that we're trying to create a whole segment of people who are considered to be wellness-conscious consumers. Because what we're doing here has to be more than pushing detox, more than supplements which drive efficacy. We as a group of consumers have to get more engaged, more informed about what doctors and the medical industry has in store for us. We have to think more about integrated solutions, or we're simply waiting for disaster to strike. We can no longer procrastinate about our health. The dangers, they are real. The environment is a concern. We almost need to become activists linked by the right information. That's not sales speak. That is the truth. And that's what drew me to your formulas, to your products.
I want to digress for a minute because something you talked about earlier, and that's, when people start feeling symptoms or feeling things going on, a lot of times they procrastinate, they put it off. Let's just say you take people that are suffering from a lot of these real significant degenerative conditions, cancer, lupus, all these different things. Well, one of the challenges is this. We've been trained to believe that doctors have all the answers, and so we turn around and empower them. We turn our power over to them and let them come up with all the solutions. The word doctor simply means to teach. But what happens is that they turn around and drain you of all your money and all your hope. So they're feeding you all these chemotherapy, radiation, which are known carcinogens, or they're trying to cut it out. And the problem is even in surgery, you're opening up that diseased area where it can oxidize and metastasize much faster. So when they finally come to the natural health arena looking for help because conventional medicine has totally given up on them, and then it's incumbent on us to try and bring them back from the brink to total health. And sadly, it's not possible in a lot of cases. And it's draining even on Christine and I. We lost our moms to cancer, and that's what brought us together. We had to get away from it because just the sadness over a period of time, not being able to help everybody, finally got to us. We had to get away from it. But we're back at it now because we know that we have a spiritual mission that we have to complete. We've just done a tremendous amount of research. We've made an impact all over the world. Of course, we were the first company. We were the first people to ever develop products that were used successfully to treat cancer victims and people with other things in China. We got all the test results. We're not even allowed to present that evidence on our website because, again, corporate America has just such a stranglehold on industry over here. So we don't get the opportunity at the onset to help a lot of these people. So what we're focusing on now is educating people. We continue to help people and assist people that are suffering from a lot of these degenerative conditions as best as we can. But what we want to do is educate people so that they can turn around and do those things necessary so that they've got a robust immune system that's impervious to the constant attack from all of these outside toxic influences coming their way.
You know, Doug, your track record speaks for itself. Folks, go to the website, zenusglobalhealth.com/information. Hit the testimonials tab if you want to know how these products work. But I also want to get into another very important topic, why you need to deal with your wellness now. We live in an environment today that is so polluted, that is filled with so many toxic heavy metals. The question is, who is toxic? Well, guess what? We're all toxic.
Yep.
My eyes have been opened, not just by you, Doug, but by studies out of the CDC, things that are out there by reputable organizations talking about how toxic heavy metals in our environment, in our water, in our air, in our workplace, what have you, they have reached unprecedented levels. And we have to get that message out, Doug, that those toxic heavy metals pose serious and long-term risks if we don't address them now.
One of the things that I find is that much of the information that we disseminate is contrary to a lot of things that we've been taught, Anthony. And so a lot of people find it difficult to buy into it. Well, understand one thing. I'm not asking anybody to believe a word that we say. You don't have to believe anything. What I want to do is open your mind to the fact that maybe there are some things that you're not looking at and to challenge you to start doing your own research. finding out if the information we're giving you is fiction or fact, and if it fits your philosophy. So you have to do your own due diligence. Understand one thing: whether or not you ever buy products from us probably is not going to result in a big change in our lifestyle. But it could make a huge difference in the quality of life for you and the ones that you love moving down the road. And I didn't come up with all this information on my own. I didn't just magically appear with all this information. I spent a lifetime of working with some of the most brilliant doctors, scientists, research people, and centers all over the world. I've lectured in a number of countries all over the world. I've been a guest of governments, especially through the Pacific Rim countries. The things that we bring to the table are common sense solutions. And the bottom line is, everything comes right from nature that we need. And all we're doing is enhancing by making sure that we've got a correct source from the herbs that we're working with. We don't compromise the integrity in any way when we do the extractions. So we make sure that everything is 100% organic, and it's able to supplement the stuff that we're no longer getting in our food. So it helps to restore the balance in our system. And disease is simply that, disease. It's a body out of balance. Restore the balance, you eliminate the disease. The Optimum Detox that we make, our flagship product, is, I believe, in my heart of hearts, probably the closest thing to magic, Anthony, you can ever find.
Would not disagree with that one bit.
And the reason I say that is this: it's a total non-invasive detoxifier. It's able to, in a totally natural way, help the body, assist the body in the elimination of all the accumulated waste in the gut. It cleanses the gut wall, so absorption of nutrients becomes much more effective.
Absolutely true.
So it enhances anything you're taking in the way of good food is increased by about 4 times its efficacy in getting to and reaching the cells and being able to be utilized. It also comes with such an abundance of nutrients in its own right. You got your vitamin A, all your B complexes, vitamin C, zinc, copper, magnesium, manganese, potassium, silver. All of these minerals, these trace minerals that effectively go to supporting and enhancing the power of the adrenal system. And of course, the adrenals are what control our emotions. It's what controls the thyroid. And aside from that, in the 90s, we discovered it's one of the richest sources of still being compounds. So you get all your resveratrol and all the resveratrol analogs. These are all the anti-tumor, anti-aging. Even the medical science community is recognizing how valuable these constituents are. They talk about red wine being good for you. Well, the red wine, primarily because of the resveratrol. Unfortunately, red wine has very little resveratrol. It comes in the skin of the grape, which is rich in resveratrol, but that's not part of the wine. So you get traces of resveratrol in the wine, but you'd probably have to drink about 5,000 glasses of red wine to get a benefit.
That's not a bad thing, is it?
Unfortunately, you'd probably fry your liver in the meantime. So it'd be a Pyrrhic victory. You know, your loss would be greater than your gain.
Right.
But the bark of the yucca isn't just resveratrol, what they call the transresveratrols, another group called eucols. All these substances have shown, scientifically, we get the evidence to show that they're able to reduce or eliminate the stickiness in blood platelets. So people with cardiovascular challenges, it's able to help to get them off these heparin drugs that are so insidiously toxic, like warfarin and Coumadin, and that wreak havoc on the liver. And the liver, when you compromise the liver, well, now your immunity is compromised significantly, because that's the laboratory of life. That's the most significant organ of detoxification. It's responsible for 40% of the detoxifying in the body. If you had no liver, you'd be dead in minutes. So arguably the only other organ in the body that could compare for importance would possibly be the heart. Totally critical. And all of these prescription drugs wreak havoc on the liver. Consequently, they compromise the integrity of our immune system.
You know, Doug, we're only 2 shows into this process, and I must say we have covered a lot of ground already. Nevertheless, I guess if we were to wrap all this up for the time being and give you 1 or 2 actionable steps that people out there must take now, look, we say start with Optimum Detox, but do your research first. You'll find the studies on our website at zenusglobalhealth.com/information. There's a research link about halfway down on the first page that you load in your browser. From there, you can read the studies direct from the source, including links to the National Institute of Health, However, before we take the next break and welcome our special guest for the day, just a couple of words about another detoxifying process that I think we all must begin in earnest, Doug, and I know you agree with this. It's this pervasive issue that we have with toxic heavy metals. We need to pay attention to this, and quite frankly, I don't think people are aware of the dangers that are out there.
Just the importance of detoxifying, because again, it's accumulated waste that I believe is the precursor to all degenerative and chronic conditions. You were talking about heavy metals. And so often we don't give a lot of thought to heavy metals. And yet, as a child, I remember going to the dentist and, you got a cavity. We got to do a filling. You need a filling. Well, at that time, they were using all mercury amalgams. 30, 40, 50 years later, you can turn around, they find through camera imagery that there's still toxic fumes coming off that amalgam filling. And the problem with a lot of the metals is that they find their way into the receptor sites of the cells, blocking off their propensity to be able to get oxygen. And so they kill the cells. And then, of course, so they get in past the blood-brain barrier and get into brain cells. Next thing you know, we're suffering from neurological challenges, MS, Alzheimer's, or bipolar dysfunction. All these things are a consequence, I believe, of heavy metal toxicity. So again, we need to assist the body in eliminating these heavy metals. We got to assist the body by enhancing the ability of the lymphatic system to work more effectively and being able to filter those toxins out of our bloodstream. We've got to work on the gut to get those toxins and accumulated waste out of the gut. And so those are the areas that we focused on, is detoxifying. Disease is a body out of balance. It means you got too much of something, not enough of something. So what we have to do is get rid of the bad stuff, the toxins, the poisons, the accumulated waste, feed the body the good stuff, but in a whole food complex so that it's recognized at a cellular level as being food for the body, so we can build up that robust immune system that's stronger and more able to defend itself against all these challenges that are coming down the pike.
If you're listening in today, my word, we have so much to cover in the coming weeks. Of course, you're listening to the Wellness Express with my great friend Doug Whitfield, and I trust you'll stay with us as we decompress a bit before our special guest arrives. His name is Dr. George Ritter, a longtime friend of the movement, really engaged throughout the history of Zenus Global Health. But right now, we want you to pick up that phone. That's right, pick up the phone. Call us at 702-540-5668. Get your wellness objectives in order. Start the process today because, there's no reason why today can't be that day. There are people standing by to help you meet your challenges head on. This, of course, is the Wellness Express.
The Optimum Detox is absolutely an incredible product. Right now, the supplemental industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But the fact of the matter is that if you don't address the cleansing aspect, the detoxifying aspect of it, most of these products, as good as they are not being used effectively. So in other words, you're just throwing your money away. You're just not getting the benefits, or you're getting certainly not all the benefits that you should be getting.
I would literally want to lie in bed for way past the alarm clock, way past when I should get up and get going. I was tired and I was definitely lethargic and kind of sluggish. My system wasn't running well.
I love to be able to give this to patients and know the various effects that it has on them without the negative side effects that you have with drugs.
When I was retired in 1991, I felt 90 years old. I subsequently reversed all my health problems.
I had acid reflux really, really bad. And within 3 days, I was able to get completely off of all acid reflux pills. And then as an afterthought, about 8 months later, I noticed, I wasn't keeping track of my weight or anything, but I realized that I had lost about 40 pounds. So it's been pretty amazing.
It actually makes me feel a lot better when I get up in the morning. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm not sluggish anymore. It's like I get up and it's like, okay, I'm ready to start my day and get out the door and let's go do things. And whereas before it would take me a good hour to get out of the house. I'd have to wake up 2 hours ahead of time just to get out of the house.
It's an abundance of natural occurring vegetable steroids. And these are steroids that are not to be confused with anabolic or chemical steroids that athletes use. What they do is they act as a catalyst to speed up the activity of the friendly flora, which is the aerobic bacteria in the system. And what these bacteria then do is they come forth in greater numbers, produce up to 60,000 times more digestive enzymes. So a lot of the foods that we've eaten that have impacted themselves, or we've got all this buildup of toxins in the system, it's able to break that down into tiny little particles that the body can now eliminate, excrete.
And one of the immediate results that I saw is that it did help the patients much quicker in their recovery. That's why I made it a routine part of all of my patients, and I actually prescribe this for every single patient that comes through the door. I give them their first bottle, so they'll have it. I have them start on it right away.
That's just part of the Optimum Detox story. Learn more about this remarkable product at zenusglobalhealth.com. Hey, welcome back to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime America Radio Network. It is special guest time here, our weekly view from outside the silo. And joining me today for his first appearance on the show is a great friend of Zenus Global Health. His name is Dr. George Ritter, and today you can find him downtown in Las Vegas at the Santa Paula Chiropractic Center. It's always a pleasure to speak with this gentleman. Dr. Ritter, great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Anthony.
You know, Dr. Ritter, I've seen you many, many times on the Zenus product videos, and it's really finally a blast to get to speak with you at long last. You always make such a compelling case for the products themselves. Some tremendous testimonials from your office, to be sure. However, for the moment, I want to focus more on you, Doctor. What drew you to this profession, and where do you see the future of chiropractic services, given this, I guess, explosion in wellness services worldwide?
Well, what brought me to it, I was a professional musician for 10 years out of college, and I met my wife a couple of years out of college, and she had terrible headaches. Coding type stuff. I had a lot of headaches. And 4 years into our marriage, I was in a band in Los Angeles, and the bass player happened to be going to chiropractic college. We were talking about her during a break, and he says, well, that's just a chiropractic problem. I said, what? What are you talking about? And so he introduced me to his friend who had just graduated, and I took her to him down in Simi Valley, L.A., and he started working on her, and by golly, she got better. We could see him that summer of 73, Monday and Wednesday, and then by Saturday or so, she was getting pretty sore again, so I put her on the floor, turn her head a little bit, and then push, just like I watched the doctor do, and a couple of bones would pop, and then she wouldn't have to take a pill right away. So that's great.
Right.
So then it took me about another half year to figure out, hey, I could do that. I'm pretty good with my hands, so I went back to chiropractic college. I started in beginning of 75. I got out in the beginning of 78. I opened the practice here March 1st of 78, which is, I believe, 38 years ago, or 39 years ago now. My goodness. Yeah. So a great thing to be able to keep her headaches under control. Boy, because, as a layperson, you watch a person suffer that you love, and there's nothing you can do but feed him drugs, and this really worked out well. This worked out super. And, of course, by being a chiropractor, then, people in what you might call mainstream medicine don't get involved in anything non-orthodox.
Right.
All they want to do is to do the drugs or do the surgery, and that's all they know, and that's fine. But so there has to be another faction of people, of practitioners that can be aware of non-medical approaches, such as physical therapy or chiropractic adjustment or acupuncture or things like this. So the chiropractors fill a good part of that. Now, depending on the state licensing, you can have a naturopath, who then would be in charge of suggesting supplements and additives like that. And, of course, you have homeopaths, who I think are very vital in our health delivery system. Homeopathy is a whole other different approach. It's almost directly opposite of allopathy, which is standard medicine. But chiropractic had its wonderful heyday in the 80s and first part of the 90s. All insurances paid for us. They paid us well. Everybody had access to us. And then one by one, the insurance companies backed away, and then we had the disaster, which is Obamacare, and that just blew it out. Even the union that I work for quintupled their copay for their people because of Obamacare, and so it's not the time like it was. You know, you have to be really good at marketing anymore and getting out there to let the people know, because chiropractic has always been a case for getting people to know about it. When I first started chiropractic, only 10% of the population back in the 70s had ever seen a chiropractor. I believe it's up to maybe 18 or 20% now, but 80% of the population never had their bones worked on. And for what I know about chiropractic, I mean, you ought to have an adjustment once a month, whether you think you need it or not. It's a lube and oil. I mean, people treat their cars better than they do their spines.
One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show today is because we don't spend nearly enough time or energy, I suppose, placing enough emphasis on the role of the chiropractic industry. These services have always been out there. Many people find great relief from them, but cut against this world of wellness beyond basic health. I get a sense that people are in search of something far more profound than, the yearly successful checkup. The wellness industry itself is, I think, in the midst of a perfect storm. The trends certainly bend to this conclusion. I'm just wondering what that wave has in store for the area of this specialty. Because on the surface, one would think the outlook for chiropractic services is bright. Am I off base here?
Well, I tell you what, I'd like to, but I tell you, it's a struggle right now because of the economics of the situation. I mean, I've had people coming in here for 30 years who now have a $3,000 deductible.
Wow.
And their insurance will pay for 12 visits. So it's moot. I mean, there's no way, so just resort to cash. And when you have an economy like this, cash is kind of slow too. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's doing badly, but, there are segments of the population that these things affect. The rich people can go anywhere they want, anytime they want, but the middle class, that's been under siege for the last 25 years, 30 years, and certainly the poorer class, it doesn't work. And Medicaid is a blessing to a lot of these people. I have patients who have gone on Medicaid where they could get decent medications for neuropathy and things that I can't help, but they don't pay chiropractors at all. And Medicare has been screwing chiropractors for 60 years as far as payment. I mean, I don't mean to paint a dismal picture, but again, what we need to do is get everybody to be aware of chiropractic. One of the things I do that's very nice is automobile accidents. Now, when you get hit in an automobile, it's really like a giant taking you by the body and slamming you up against a wall. The bones in the spine get dislodged. They become out of line. And you'll heal whether or not you get them lined up. But if you don't line them up while you're healing, now you're going to have a chronic problem all your life and advanced arthritis and things like this. And so it's best, once you've had the accident, to see a chiropractor. It takes about 3 months to get everything straightened away. And what we do is we align the spine so that as the spine heals, it heals in line instead of out of line. And that keeps the inflammation down, which keeps the arthritis down in later years, and certainly a better life.
Personally speaking, purely anecdotal here, but I've known a number of cases where people have been largely given up by the medical community. The patient then goes to a chiropractor, finds relief using some of those specific treatment modalities, and not all of them being spinal readjustment. I'm just curious as to why the medical profession continues to hold your services at arm's length when in fact there are real benefits to be had here for patients who need these services. There are legitimate reasons why you reach to a chiropractor.
That's a turf battle. If they come into my office, they don't go into theirs. That's all it is. It's just dollars. Sure. It's just money. Maybe it used to be a matter of pride or arrogance or whatever, but it's basically just money. Because, if the professions will work together. See, here's the problem, too. I adjust children, and I'm the poster child for earaches as a child. I had them all the time, and I got earaches because when I was 4, I got hit in the forehead by a swing that came at me. I found out later it dislodged the upper bone of my spine, the atlas, right under the skull. And because of that, the eustachian tubes got messed up, and I had earaches for like decades. I found that out finally when I got to chiropractic college decades later, and now I treat children for earaches. And almost to the individual, I can relieve chronic earaches in children just by adjusting the spine. It's so profound. I mean, it's just so profound. I've improved people's eyesight by adjusting their spine. Back in the day, great story, back in the day in the 30s, when chiropractic was first licensed in Missouri, the doctor that opened the school that I went to practiced in Kansas City in the 30s. When they got licensed, they went to the local insane asylum, and they asked for the 10 worst cases of psychosis. Now, we're talking acquired problems, not people that were born in deficit, but people that somewhere along the line became psychotic. Mm-hmm. They adjusted them every day for a month, and by the end of the month, all 10 of them were on the street and well.
Wow.
Now, you would think that somebody write a paper about that and get the chiropractors into every insane asylum in the world and get these people back on the street.
Right.
But it's a turf battle. Plus that, the pharmaceutical people don't want anything to do with anything that doesn't have to do with them.
See, this is the biggest part of the traditional medical profession, I guess medical profession in air quotes, that pushed me away from its influence. And for a while, you'd run into that rare doctor who had upgraded his skill set, so to speak, and became something of a maverick and began to offer integrated services that reach beyond, the usual trade symptoms for pills mentality. And consequently, you find yourself more fully immersed in these practices, and that's really when you come to learn that the traditional model is more commerce than wellness, and then your world opens up. So all the energy, the money, it's devoted to keeping people inside this tent rather than make people healthy again. So when I get a chance to speak with people like you, Dr. Ritter, been in practice for 30 years or more, you suddenly realize just how many alternative therapies are really open to us. Treatment alternatives such as vibration therapy, for instance. When I first learned about this concept, it just seemed like common sense to me. Can you explain to our listeners how this works, maybe some of its benefits? It's really quite interesting.
This has been around some years, and it was invented by the Russians for their people in space, because the reason the bones get soft and the muscles get weak up in space is that there's no gravity, and gravity is the force and the stress that creates our strength. Mm-hmm. And so they found that people were turning to mush, and in the early days, they come out of orbit, and they'd have to be lifted out of the capsule. They couldn't walk until they reconstituted their body. Well, make a version of this thing and strap them in it, and then let them vibrate, because every time the muscle twitches in a vibration, that's exercise. Now, one of the conditions that I treat here with this turbosonic is osteoporosis, because what happens is by vibrating the spine, or all the bones actually, you're stressing it. And the body's response to stress is to lay down calcium in the bone. So if you're losing calcium, you're going to reverse that by laying down calcium in the point of stress. So we're actually treating osteoporosis here, and also osteoarthritis, among other things.
Again, I was immediately drawn to vibration therapy because of its ability to improve flexibility, circulation, muscle strength.
Right.
But you also come to discover its benefits in the area of reducing stress. And as you know, and as I know, stress is a silent killer because it dumps all kinds of poisons into our system, further compromising us in the battle against chronic disease and premature aging. So, Dr. Ritter, when you think about all of these things, how do we get the word out there to people that these common sense therapies exist and that the expected outcomes alone can improve our wellness, if not our quality of life?
Yeah, that's always the question. And, of course, networking is probably the best way to go. You just got to get out among people. And once you treat a few people and get disciples, then they will go out and talk for you. I have a lady who's, she's about 68 and a bit weighty, but terribly arthritic. And, getting up in the morning took her 3 hours to really get mobile, get everything working again, and just troubled with that.
Right.
Well, finally, she was persuaded to come in and see me. And after the first treatment, she got out of bed immediately and started walking the next day. You have to just depollute the joints and the tissues. You have to get things working again. You have to get the body back to a point of homeostasis instead of it being in such distress.
You said something rather important there about poisons and toxins, specifically about removing them from the joints. This is the area in which your work intersects with Zenus Global Health because, as we both know, these elements are the source of all disease and chronic conditions. That's where proper detoxification enters the picture, and I've got to believe that no treatment protocol that doesn't address these poisons and toxins can really be successful. Clearly, we can't do one part of the treatment and not deal with detoxification. Am I correct in that assumption?
Right. You can do one without the other, but it won't be complete, of course. Chiropractic's great, but if you're all polluted, then let's do some detoxing. And I mean, one of the things that I recommend to my patients is Optimum Detox. This is a yucca product, of course, and what it does, it cleanses and conditions the alimentary canal. And for those of you from Rio Linda, the alimentary canal is from the mouth all the way to the anus, the butt, and everything in between. And it can heal the stomach of ulcer. It can cleanse the small intestine and in the areas where the food is absorbed. I've seen it help constipation. I've seen it help heartburn. Some time ago, I had about a 40-year-old fella come in. He liked to lift weights and this and that, but he had such a pain in between the shoulder blades. He couldn't lift weights. He was in such pain. So I had him on the table, and I felt along his spine, and boy, there was a sore spot about the fifth thoracic vertebra right between the shoulder blades. And I said, whoa, I said, you have stomach problems? He says, yeah, I'm taking medicine for an ulcer. So you see, the spine can reflect things going on in the body. So I said, okay. I said, here's what we're going to do. And this is a multi-pronged attack. I said, we're going to adjust you. I'm going to have you to drink a lot of water, and I'm going to have you to take Optimum Detox. Well, I saw him a week later. He had stopped the ulcer medication. The pain in his back was virtually gone, and he was lifting weights again. So, I mean, you could give him medicine until he dies, and it won't help. But, and of course, drinking water is a big, big, big part of that, too. I mean, there's a fellow named Dr. Batman Galich from India who has cured all kinds of people with just giving them water for stomach problems, because most of us are chronically dehydrated, and the mucus in the stomach gets too thick, and then it separates, and then the acid gets at the stomach lining and starts burning it and burning a hole in it, and there you have an ulcer. So lots of water, Optimum Detox, an adjustment occasionally, and it worked out just fine. I mean, just almost a miracle, you know?
In keeping with our first glance at vibration therapy, you start with detoxification, you get the process starting there, and now you really can take advantage of some remarkable benefits here. Improved blood circulation, lymph drainage, which is so critical for many reasons. We strengthen our collagen and even stimulate the release of growth hormone, which I know is important to athletes for its anti-aging properties. Mm-hmm. So you pull back the layers even further, there's also a link to relieving arthritis, which has also been linked to the very poisons and toxins that cause so much discomfort for the afflicted. Once again, Dr. Ritter, when I come to discover treatments such as these, do you hold a degree of optimism for integrative services in the future? I'd like to think so.
I think you're right, but again, it really is a matter of publicity and of getting out and networking and letting people know what you have. I mean, this woman I described to you that couldn't get out of bed and had 3 hours to get herself together, she was just closed to the idea. And fortunately, my daughter, who is my secretary, is her good friend, and she finally talked her into coming in after a year or two. And she was so mad at herself for not listening the first time. But I want to answer a question about the turbosonic there. You know, you talked about the blood. Carbon dioxide oxygen exchange, that's the function of the red blood cell. And red blood cell kind of looks like a donut without a hole. Instead of a hole, it's got a kind of little depression. But think of a stack of donuts on a stick, for instance. That's what the blood corpuscles look like in a condition called rouleau. It's French, if I'm saying it right. And what it is, it's a stack of 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 red corpuscles stacked on each other, going through the bloodstream in a stack like that. Now, if their function is carbon dioxide oxygen exchange, there's not much happening because they're bumped up against each other and they're not exposed to the blood, right, to the liquid. So being on the turbosonic for 10 minutes separates all those stacks into individual corpuscles once again. So right there, you're increasing your oxygenation of your blood. Now, of course, you know about lymphatics. Lymphatics respond, the pump for lymphatics is muscular. There's no pump like a heart or anything like that. It's all muscular. And, of course, if you vibrate the muscles, the lymphatic drains more freely and more quickly.
As far as networking and making connections are concerned, Dr. Ritter, how do people get in touch with you and maybe enlist your services? What's the easiest way to get in contact with the Santa Paula Chiropractic Center, and especially you?
Well, I am in the middle of Las Vegas. I'm just a block from the Stratosphere Tower. In fact, I was here before the Stratosphere Tower, 1812 Santa Paula Drive, Las Vegas, Nevada.
You're downtown for sure. That's right. Yeah.
I am. And 89104, which is right downtown. And I'm at 702-731-5028. And I'd be happy to answer questions or whatever it is that you need to know or make an appointment, and we'll just see what we can do to help.
Listen, Dr. Ritter, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really feel like we've barely scratched the surface today, so I truly hope we can cross paths again, dedicate more time to the other services that you offer at your center. I greatly appreciate your insights, as always, especially in the realm of optimum detox, and let's try to do this again real soon. Thank you so much for your time. You're such a gentleman.
Well, thank you, sir. I had a good time.
Many thanks to you for listening in at home. You can also stay in touch with the Wellness Express by following us at facebook.com/ZenusHQ. Check us out on Twitter at Zenus Global for all the updates and more. Remember, the greatest gift you can give your friends, your loved ones, is the lessons we share about the healing powers found in our bodies. So send your friends, family, and colleagues a link to one of our shows and let their journeys begin. This has been the Wellness Express. The consultation's free, direct from Nature's Pharmacy. We'll be back again next week, and please, in the meantime, stay well.